A 3-year-old girl is dead, and her father faces the death penalty in connection with her murder. And family members say there were numerous warning signs.
The 8 News Now I-team has been shedding light on how the system, in particular Child Protective Services, has been involved in these kinds of cases. And in this case specifically, one of the worst the Valley has ever seen.
The I-team's Vanessa Murphy is here with this exclusive report and also an interview with the child's grandmother that you will only see here on 8 News Now.
Now, we do want to warn you, this report has images of a graphic and sensitive nature.
Abigail Bennett's grandmother describes the child as inquisitive, talkative, and a good hugger.
I miss her terribly.
At just 3 years old, Abigail had endured a lot. Here's her father, Justin Bennett, forcing a hot pepper in her mouth as punishment. Despite warning signs like that video and bruises like these, the I-team found the system failed Abigail. She was killed on July 1st, 2016.
The first person that came to mind was Justin.
Justin Bennett is accused of murder and could face the death penalty. Court records show Abigail was beaten so badly her heart exploded, and she was suffering from a broken back and broken ribs in the days before she died.
I wish I could. I wish I could have done things differently.
Bernadine Morimoto says she sounded the alarm several times before Abigail's death. She says to her daughter, Corey, the child's mother, to police, and to CPS. The I-team obtained numerous documents which shed light on how Abigail was failed. Corey Morimoto told police she tried recording the abuse to prove Justin was abusing her 3 children so she could gain full custody of them. The day she left Bennett in January of 2016, Bernadine called police. 2 Metro officers showed up. CPS was called, and an officer later admitted he did not express a sense of urgency after seeing video like this. No report was made, no bruises were documented, and then CPS gave the case to HopeLink, an outside agency that only deals with low-level non-abuse cases. The case manager there, James Hardy, testified in court. He referred Bennett to parenting classes, and HopeLink expressed concern to CPS, but CPS manager Lisa Gibson refused to take the case back. Hardy says Bennett was difficult to reach and uncooperative, and Bernadine Morimoto claims she kept telling Hardy she was worried about the girls. But in April, the case was closed, deemed with no present or impending danger. More than 2 months later, while Corey was out of state with the Air Force, Bennett took the girls from Bernadine, then Abigail died.
It's sickening. It's something that should never have happened to anyone.
Attorney Todd Perry is representing Bernadine in a lawsuit against Clark County, which runs CPS, and the people she believes failed to protect Abigail.
The county has an obligation, once they're aware that kids are in danger and are being harmed, to intervene.
Today, Justin Bennett awaits trial. He declined our request for an interview. So did his sisters, who were visiting him in jail.
Did he kill Abigail?
Goodbye.
Bennett's mother, Sherry Morse, and Corey Morimoto also face child abuse charges. They're accused of knowing about the abuse and not protecting the children. Morse could not be reached. Corey Morimoto's attorney declined an interview. Case manager James Hardy no longer works at HopeLink. The agency has no comment. Neither does CPS, but the I-team has learned Lisa Gibson is still a supervisor there. Both officers, Stephen Oscar and Stephen Parrish, who first responded to the home, still have their jobs too. Bernadine says the purpose of her lawsuit is to hold people accountable for failing Abigail.
I know she's safe now. It took me a while to accept that. There's times when I don't, but I know she's safe.
Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
The I-team reached out to CPS multiple times to get a response for this report, but the agency refused to comment.
As for Metro, a spokeswoman says a formal complaint was never made about those responding officers, so the incident was never investigated internally. Corey Morimoto, the child's mother, told police she was also being abused.
The grandmother, Bernadine, has been appointed a guardian for Abigail's 2 sisters. Justin Bennett's trial is set to begin in October.
Child Protective Services may not be living up to its name in protecting children. The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy is taking a closer look at a trial that's unfolding right now, where the actions of CPS are a main point of contention.
They just want a happy home.
3 little girls up for adoption were featured in this Wednesday's Child, which aired on 8 News Now in 2010. According to a Child Protective Services worker, this got the attention of Dwight and Janet Solander, who contacted CPS to adopt the children.
They just want to be kids, normal kids. You know, no stress, no, just normal, okay.
Childhood should be childhood.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. You know what? It shouldn't hurt to be a kid.
But prosecutors say the children were abused and tortured in their new home. And in 2014, the adoptive parents were charged. Dwight agreed to a plea deal. Janet is now on trial facing 46 charges.
There's some kids on your caseload that kind of really impact you, and I was really close to these girls.
Heather Richardson is the CPS worker who facilitated the adoption. She says she later bumped into the parents with one of the girls, noticed bruises, and contacted CPS so an investigation would be initiated, but nothing was done. So did the temporary nanny, Jan Finnegan.
Do you get a call back from CPS?
Nothing.
And that's the recurring theme of this trial.
There were 5 reports and investigations for child abuse or child neglect. And CPS went and investigated, and nothing was done. These children were left in the home, and they were continued to be abused.
In fact, even more foster children were placed in the Solander home. That lack of action by CPS is an opportunity for the defense.
No documentation of anything amounting to criminal level abuse. Indeed, as stated, the CPS and DFS were in that household.
The I-Team has been reporting on failures by CPS to take action. For this year so far, there are reports available for the deaths of 2 children in Clark County. Both families had prior contacts with CPS, with allegations found unsubstantiated and an investigation closed. When the I-Team tries to get answers about CPS, a spokesman cites privacy laws. But this case may be exposing major problems within the agency.
They asked questions, they got answers. None of them required the Solanders to change their methods.
Prosecutors say the Solanders claimed the girls were ill when they weren't, restricted food and water, and beat the girls with paint sticks. Jacqueline Bluth showed jurors these photos. She explained buckets for the girls to sit on for hours, undressed from the waist down, cots, not beds to sleep on, and a photo of one of the girls covered in her own feces. She says the Solanders tortured the girls over bathroom use and even inserted catheters. She told jurors the girls lived a nightmare for 2.5 years.
And that the defendant got angry and picked her up by her hair in the back of her head and repeatedly slammed her head into the counter until it got to the point that her eye was so severely injured that it closed shut.
Finnegan says she even thought about taking the girls.
I went over to give each child a hug, and I told them I'd be praying for them, and they were crying as they walked out the door. I will never forget it in my life. And I wanted to take him with me. I could have gone into Laughlin. I know officers there, but what could they have done? And I was letting the children, I felt I let these children down.
She turned to the agency specifically tasked with not letting those children down, and no action was taken. As for accountability, Bluth says those CPS workers who handled those complaints about the Solander family are still employed by the agency. Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
A footnote here, Janet Solander's daughter also was charged and also agreed to a plea deal.
There is a shakeup at the Department of Family Services in Clark County.
That is after several recent stories by the I-Team on a trial which may be exposing problems inside the agency. The I-Team's Vanessa Murphy is here with the most recent developments tonight.
Yeah, Denise and Brian, we've learned the woman who was the acting director has been demoted. There's a search for a new director, and the assistant county manager has taken over in the meantime. Now, throughout the past couple of weeks, we've learned workers whose job it is to keep children safe are failing. The information is coming to light in this court case against Janet Solander. She faces 46 charges related to child abuse and neglect. She's accused of torturing 3 girls she adopted for 2.5 years. Multiple complaints were made about Solander and her husband from people concerned about the children's well-being. It turns out even more foster children were placed inside their home. And what we've learned, workers aren't reviewing notes to check family histories. Here's one worker who testified today being questioned about why she didn't check the system when she was supposed to be overseeing the case of 4 foster children inside that home.
Has there been any explanation from the higher-ups as to why you wouldn't review notes like that before taking over a case?
No explanation or no instruction to do so or not to do so.
And the plot thickens. A prosecutor said in court that DFS worker supervisor was called to testify and was not cooperating. The solution, since she said she was recuperating from knee surgery, testimony via Skype. Now, also the I-team learned yesterday there was a shakeup at DFS, and we were working to confirm it. We reached out to 2 county spokespeople. We received a response nearly 24 hours later, just at 4:30 today. A spokesman says the woman who was the acting director is now back to assistant director while the search is on for a replacement. He claims she wasn't demoted.
Failure after failure after failure. The I-team has been reporting on how some children are falling through the cracks in Clark County and how the agency dedicated to helping them has major flaws. The I-team has been requesting an interview with management at the agency for months now. And finally, Vanessa Murphy has this exclusive interview with the interim director. We do want to warn you, some of this material in this report is of a sensitive nature.
Some children in Clark County are dying, even after Child Protective Services, or CPS, had a chance to intervene. After the I-team's numerous stories and requests, the acting director agreed to an interview.
Do you think children are falling through the cracks?
I think we are always in a state of continuous improvement.
Getting a yes or no?
Continuous improvement.
Never happened.
Continuous improvement.
We asked Kevin Schiller to identify problems within CPS, whether he believes it's working like it should, and other direct questions. He answered using the same term 17 times.
Is that continuous improvement?
According to this 2017 study, only 38% of children CPS has had access to are safely maintained in their homes.
We're constantly reviewing to improve our practice and really ultimately the outcomes for children and families.
Some outcomes are tragic.
I miss her terribly.
Abigail Bennett was killed in 2016. Her father's accused of beating her to death. The I-team learned there were numerous warning signs. CPS was involved with the family before the 3-year-old's death, but the agency outsourced her case where only low-level neglect situations are handled. The child's grandmother is now suing CPS. Schiller insists he can't talk about specific cases.
It's confidentiality under statute.
Okay. Have you watched any of our recent stories?
Yes.
What would you say about them without commenting on a specific case?
I would go back to the fact that, number one, any child death in our system is an absolute travesty. And I would also indicate that, the department, the county, myself, are very invested in continuous improvement.
Since you've taken over, have employees been held accountable for mistakes more so?
So in accordance with collective bargaining agreements and statutory requirements for confidentiality, we do manage the accountability of staff related to that.
But the trial against Janet Solander revealed a different story. Solander was convicted of torturing 3 girls she adopted for nearly 3 years. CPS was involved, but workers revealed they weren't reviewing Solander's history with CPS.
Has there been any explanation from the higher-ups as to why you wouldn't review notes like that before taking over a case?
no explanation or no instruction to do so or not to do so.
Why are workers saying they didn't have that information?
I don't have any case examples, but I can tell you from a unity system, and this is in my experience statewide, that information is available through the statewide child welfare system.
Schiller has been the assistant county manager in Clark County for 9 months. He oversees several programs, including CPS now, while the search for a permanent replacement is underway.
I don't think I hear specifics about accountability. Is there anything else you can say about accountability?
So the issue of accountability from the perspective of keeping children safe is our mission.
While Schiller is managing, ultimately Clark County commissioners are in charge of CPS. Schiller says he will be asking for more funding and reaching out to the community. One example for foster parents who are desperately needed. Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.